Welcome to Karma Canvas, the three non-existent princes, when reality is just an idea. In the ancient forest hermitage of the great sage Vasistha, we find Prince Rama sitting in devoted attendance, his heart burning with questions about the nature of reality. The prince had come seeking answers to the deepest mysteries of existence. Around them, the forest whispers with the timeless presence of countless seekers who have sat in this sacred space, all yearning to understand the ultimate truth. Rama had just heard Vasistha's teaching that when the mind thinks of something in ignorance, it appears to materialize as bondage. Yet the sage also spoke of liberation as equally unreal. This paradox troubled the young prince's mind. How could both bondage and liberation be non-existent? What then was his suffering? What then was the path to freedom?
Honored Vasistha, I am troubled by what you have taught. You say that when the mind imagines something in ignorance, it becomes real as bondage. Yet you also declare that bondage itself is an illusion. How can both statements be true? This contradiction confuses my understanding.
Excellent question, dear Rama. Your confusion arises because you have not yet understood the nature of ignorance itself. Listen carefully now, for I shall tell you a most extraordinary story, one that will illuminate this very paradox you struggle with. This story is a mirror in which you will see the truth reflected. Once a young boy asked his nanny for a story to ease his restless mind. The nanny, with great care and love, began to tell him a tale that was so captivating, so perfectly crafted, that the boy forgot himself entirely in its listening. The boy's mind became completely absorbed in the world the nanny was creating with her words alone. And this, dear Rama, is where our journey begins.
My dear child, I shall tell you the most marvelous tale. Once upon a time, in a city which did not exist, there lived three princes who were brave and happy. These princes possessed all the virtues that princes should possess: courage, wisdom, and noble hearts. Of these three princes, two were unborn and the third had never been conceived. Do you understand, my child? Listen carefully, for this story will teach you something you will remember all your life. As Vasistha relates this tale to Rama, the story unfolds like a lotus opening in the spring sun. Each paradoxical image, princes unborn, cities non-existent, carries layers of meaning that point directly to the nature of consciousness itself. The nanny continues her narrative with perfect precision, knowing that the boy's mind will absorb every contradiction, every impossibility, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Sadly, all of the relatives of these three princes perished. Overcome with grief and the weight of loss, the three princes decided they must leave their native city and journey elsewhere to find solace and new purpose. As they walked beneath the burning sun, the heat became unbearable. Their feet, so tender and unaccustomed to hardship, were burnt by the hot sand of the desert. The very tips of grass pierced their skin. At last, exhausted and suffering, they sought shelter. Then, as if blessed by divine grace, they came upon the shade of three trees. The first tree did not exist. The second tree, like the first, had never come into being. But the third tree had not even been planted. Not a single root touched the earth, not a seed had ever been sown. Yet under the shade of these three trees, the non-existent, the never-born, and the never-planted, the princes found complete rest and comfort. There they remained, and they ate the fruits of these miraculous trees and were satisfied. As the nanny speaks, the boy remains mesmerized, his logical mind suspended in wonder. He does not question how non-existent things can provide shelter or how unborn princes can walk and eat. His mind has entered a different mode of understanding, not rational analysis, but pure receptive imagination. Back in the ashram, Prince Rama begins to sense that he too is being invited into this same mode of consciousness, where contradiction dissolves and paradox becomes transparent. From beneath the shade of those impossible trees, the three princes continued their journey. Soon they arrived at three rivers. The first river was completely dry, not a drop of water had flowed there in ages. The second river was also dry, a mere bed of cracked earth. But the third river contained no water at all. There was nothing, only the concept of a river, the memory of water. Yet in these three rivers, the dry, the empty, and the nothing, the princes took a most refreshing bath. They quenched their thirst completely and felt renewed in body and spirit. Here, in the heart of the tale, lies the deepest paradox. Objects that cannot exist according to reason are being experienced as fully real in consciousness. The princes suffer when denied water and find relief when they receive it, regardless of whether that water exists in the ordinary sense. This is the crucial insight. The mind's experience is the only reality that needs to exist for the experience to be real. The suffering is real because it is experienced, even if its cause is illusory. Continuing their journey, the three princes came at last to a great city which was about to be constructed. Nothing yet stood there, yet somehow the city already existed in potential and in imagination. Entering this impossible city, they discovered three palaces of exceeding beauty and grandeur. The first palace had not been built at all, it existed only in the architect's dream. The second palace, too, had never been constructed, existing only in the mind of the king who wished for it. The third palace stood before them, yet it had no walls, it was merely space defined by pillars and openness. Yet in these three palaces, the princes found shelter, safety, and wonder. Within these three palaces, the princes discovered three golden plates of surpassing beauty. Alas, the first plate had been broken into two pieces. The second plate, too, had been broken into two. The third plate, however, had been entirely pulverized into dust. Yet taking hold of the plate that had been reduced to dust, that which had been most thoroughly destroyed, they took 99 minus 100 grams of rice, which is to say, not 1 grain of rice existed, and they cooked this non-existent rice with perfect skill. To share their meal, the three princes invited 3 holy men to be their guests. The first holy man had no body, he was pure consciousness taking the form of a visitor. The second holy man also had no body, he too was spirit temporarily wearing the appearance of a guest. The third holy man had no mouth with which to eat, he could not consume anything in the ordinary sense. Yet all 3 holy men partook of the rice, that non-existent rice cooked in those impossible palaces, and they were completely satisfied. After the holy guests had eaten, the 3 princes partook of the remainder of the food with great joy and thanksgiving. Thus the 3 princes and their holy guests lived together in that impossible city, in those non-existent palaces, eating the invisible rice and sleeping in shade cast by unplanted trees, for a very long time, perhaps forever, perhaps never, in perfect peace and joy. My dear child, this is an extremely beautiful legend that I have told you. I wish you to remember it always, for if you do, you will grow up to be a truly learned and wise person. The story is now complete.
Rama, my beloved student, now do you see the profound teaching hidden within this story? What is called the creation of this world, the one you believe to be so solid and real, is no more real than the tale of the young boy. This world is nothing but pure hallucination, my dear prince. It is nothing more than an idea. In the infinite consciousness, the idea of creation arose, and that idea alone is what we call the universe. Look at your own experience. All the objects you perceive, all the people you encounter, all the suffering you endure, are they not all ideas arising in your consciousness? Therefore, O Rama, reject the error of ideation. Do not cling to the belief that these ideas are ultimately real. The self, the infinite consciousness that you truly are, remains forever untouched by the play of creation, just as the sky is untouched by the clouds that pass through it. Your bondage exists only in your ignorance, your imagination. Your suffering is real only as long as you believe in the stories your mind is telling you. Abandon your imperfect vision based on false perception. Rest instead in the perfect vision that is of the nature of infinite bliss, and that is based on absolute truth. You are free right now, in this very moment. You have always been free, only wake up to this truth.
The teaching, the entire manifest universe, including your sense of bondage and suffering, is nothing more than an idea arising in infinite consciousness, as unreal as the story of princes in a non-existent city. Subscribe to Karma Canvas for daily wisdom from ancient spiritual traditions.